I rolled over at 9:45 that morning on a mattress on the basement floor, surrounded by the faint smell of sewage, and started drinking whiskey in the dark before I even checked my phone. That's how I started the last day of one of the worst and strangely best weeks of my life. I was living out of my friend's house, basically unable to even pay rent, and had been shifted to the unfinished basement so that my ex, the one I thought God had called me to marry, and her dumbass fiancé could take the guest room I normally slept in. I'd been surviving that week on tequila and weed and had run out of both. Then I got the call that my dad had another aggressive cancer, and I needed to move in with him. And then to top it all off, I got served for a legal issue in my business, for a murder trial. The entire universe was out for me, and I was being ground under its heel. So, rolling over in the dark that morning, all I wanted to do was just not feel, not think. And I checked out hard with the only tool I'd found helpful for the last decade. I'd gone to therapy for years. I was self-aware. I was the one that had it all together. I was the one who held it all together. But this was too big. I couldn't see it, and I didn't consciously do it. But I shut down. It was one of those weeks when it all falls apart. But I eventually figured out how to put it back together. And the journey back showed me the incredible value of self-awareness. Living a life with more aliveness. We live in a world where self-awareness is exploding. Interest in self-help, mindfulness, meditation, and other terms has grown by over 300% in the last year alone. But recently, a client of mine asked an amazingly basic question. What even is self-awareness? I mean, we all kind of think we have an idea of what that word means, especially when we point out people in our lives who lack it. But what is it, really? Self-awareness is a three-stage process. 1, our ability to recognize and know ourselves, our emotions, motivations, behaviors, thought patterns, habits, how we are at any given point in time. I'll call this the knowledge stage of self-awareness. 2nd, if we're self-aware, we have the ability to actively reflect and learn from our experiences. What worked? What didn't? What felt in alignment with ourselves, our values, or who we want to be in the world? And finally, this awareness includes our ability to create and maintain change based on what we've learned and where we want to go. So let's go back to that moldy, messy morning. Once I'd recovered from the hangover, sitting with my friends over dinner, I unlocked that first stage, knowledge. They offered some really tough feedback, but I listened, and I became not just aware of my actions, but some of the potential desires behind them. Now, I wish this had come from me entirely, but let's be honest, in those moments, it can often take the wisdom and candor of others to be that spark of self-awareness. I realized that I was feeling big feelings. As an Enneagram 9 and hardcore conflict avoider, I'd spent 20 years getting really, really good at suppressing those emotions. Because big emotions can cause big problems. Or at least that's the story that I built up in my head. I was feeling sad, angry, anxious, fearful. And each of those big feels was trying to tell me something. My anger tried to tell me something needed to change. Maybe it was time to move on from the hope over that relationship. I mean, damn, she was there with her fiancé. It's probably time to move on, even if it hurt. My sadness wanted to grieve, to acknowledge the loss of that hope, to recognize the possibility of my father dying again. And then the anxiety, the future threats, the fears. I'd be alone forever. My family would be gone. My business would crater. All of that felt like shit. And the one big reaction and desire that I had was to not feel like shit. So my body and unconscious mind did what we all do sometimes. It went into protection mode. I mean, hell, you can't feel like crap if you can't feel at all, right? The lights went off. But for once, the action of turning the lights off was more terrifying than the darkness and the hangover. I'd hit the second stage of self-awareness, reflection. In conscious leadership, we talk about the change formula. We only change when either the pain is too great or the potential reward on the other side is big enough to overcome our resistance to moving. And while I really, really, really wanted to not feel like crap or to not feel those big feelings anymore, until that week, my resistance to change was too big. So I stayed in the pain. What was that resistance, you ask? Oh, it was a bunch of things. I was taught that humility was a virtue, that I should place myself second by the culture that raised me. When family asks for help, you drop everything and run. I was taught that success was grounded in me being whoever anyone else wanted me to be. Oh, you want to be friends? Absolutely. Oh, you're bringing your fiancé. Great. I was taught that peace meant being seen but not heard. Hell, even my natural personality types were positioned to keep me there. Introverted, afraid of conflict, self-sacrificing, avoidant attachment, and a naturally born broken-ass sinner. The entire universe was conspiring against me, and that was the key thought, the conflict keeping me locked down. My biggest resistance to living more in aliveness was a core belief, an unconscious commitment to believing everything in my life was happening to me, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Resistance was futile.
And that, reflecting on the impact of that pattern, that everything was happening to me, and my only role was reaction, brought me from the second stage of self-awareness to the third, behavior change and alignment. Now, these changes weren't immediate, and they weren't always life-changing on the outside. Simply expressing my needs more, feeling my emotions and being aware of potential triggers, even after the fact, and finding little cracks of willingness to stick my neck out from my fortress of victimhood and safety. Some, though, were bigger. Going to therapy, setting clearer boundaries, leaning into short-term conflict in hopes of getting back to peace faster, prioritizing my mental health. These things have been a lifesaver, for me at least. But over time, I was able to shift more of my life from a to-me mindset to a by-me state of being, seeing the world as a place where I have agency. Instead of life happening to me, I make it happen. I have the ability to create the world I want to live in, rather than just living and floating around in others. I'm empowered. I can define and express my wants and desires. Sure, sometimes people aren't able to meet them, and that sucks. But I get to choose how I want to respond. And these problems, when they come up, I have the ability to solve them. My future wife and her fiancé, whether or not I stay shackled to that story is 100% up to me. My dad's cancer. I may not be able to change his diagnosis, but I can choose to be present and loving and connected with him for as long as possible. And that murder trial, well, I'm going to save that story for another day. Self-awareness, the practice and skill of gaining knowledge, reflecting and learning, and recognizing that we have the choice to change if we want to, isn't the easy choice. It's often risky. It takes effort. It exposes us to the world outside our comfort zone, and it's not always perfect. It takes time. Hell, you might even piss some people off. But for me, increasing my self-awareness and my awareness of those around me has been honestly, truly life-changing, life-saving, and life-giving. And I hope it is for you too. So here's my invitation. Just start where I did. Name what you're feeling right now, in this moment. Not fine, not, oh, I'm stressed. Get specific. Are you angry, curious, joyful, anxious about something you've been avoiding? Recognizing and naming it, even just to yourself, is the first step. Or ask yourself this one honest question. Is life happening to me right now? Or am I consciously choosing how I show up? You don't even have to have the answer. Just sit with the question and see what happens. Or tell one person you trust about a pattern you've been noticing in your life recently and ask them for feedback. A friend, a therapist, your partner, your coworker. Because self-awareness rarely starts alone, and the moment someone else holds up the mirror is often the moment that everything starts to shift. If you know someone who needs to hear this today, I really hope you'll share it with them. Thanks for being here.